It's Laura Eubanks of Design for Serenity with your succulent tip of the day. I am with Bentley the succulent dog, and this is day 6 of extreme backyard gardening. Oh my gosh. This, yes, it's gorgeous, but it's also completely and utterly run amok. So this is another area that it's time, it's time to pull all of it out, cut it up, and reset it. Remember, with your succulents, guys, they're not going to get smaller, are they? They are just going to keep getting bigger. So you have to be brave and reach that point where you look at it as it, compare it to other areas of your garden. And if it's unbalanced, if it just doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. So don't hesitate to get in there, tear it up, and reset. This Sedum Firestorm is one of my favorite succulents. I adore the orange color. It does need the sun though, in order to turn orange. You can see some of the stuff that's been growing in the shade, or the newer growth that hasn't seen the light of day yet, is very green. This is what you're going to get if you don't have at least 7 to 8 hours of sunlight directly hitting this plant. This is also a great one to do leaf propagation with. So once I'm done yanking all of this out, and yes, this did go in as a cutting, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago maybe. There are literally hundreds of leaves that I'm picking up off the ground, and they're viable. I mean, they're plump, they're healthy. So I'm going to set all of those aside for leaf propagation.
Do you like, hey Mama.
Yeah, hi Anna.
We can do an interview today. Do you like using these plants in your tapestry?
This is one of my favorite plants to use in the tapestry because look at those stems. Look at how thick and tough they are. This plant is the easiest one in the world to work with as a cutting. I do that, and I limb up these bottom leaves so I've got, something to stick back in the ground. This thing is, it's rigid. This is just so easy to pop in anywhere. And look at, how it lends texture and a pop of color. So yes, Sedum Firestorm is one of my, I would say, top 5. Look, the Ruchia. Disregard that. Oh, you know what? I think this might be a decollate snail. Decollate snails are the little snails that eat baby helix snails. These are the good guys in the garden. And the way to tell if you have a decollate snail is to see if there's any damage on or around the area where you see the snail. If you see a lot of snails and you don't see that your plants have been eaten, chances are good that that's a decollate, and you want to encourage those. And now that I look at it, this really is like a top 5 area of my favorite plants. This is Aloe Blue Elf, and this is Aloe brevifolia. Both of these aloes stay comparatively small. Obviously, you can see brevifolia stay smaller than Blue Elf. So if you're working with both plants, plant this one in the back, the Blue Elf. This used to always confuse me because when I think elf, I think diminutive, so I always used to think this was the elf, but it's not. Brevifolia, this one stays very low to the ground and has a spreading habit. This one also doesn't mature much beyond a foot and a half, but it is taller. So this would be your back story, and this would be your front story. This Blue Elf that was right here was getting the full effect of exposure. All the sun, all the heat, all the everything. This little offset was growing under the bench. Look at the difference. Lots of sun, not lots of sun.
Why is
but
that one pink?
yeah, this is stress that causes it to turn kind of a pinkish, mauvish color. But look, this just goes to show you how tough these plants are. Even though this one wasn't growing in its most, friendliest of environments, it's still alive, it's still reaching for the sun, and it's even throwing off a bloom spike. I'm going to let this Aloe brevifolia ride. I'm not going to take it out because it does lay so so close to the ground. But you can see this has been in here for probably at least 5 years, and you can see the growth habit. You can see how it's starting to spread and how it grows plantlets from the base, and it just gets wider and wider as opposed to taller and taller. This cotyledon, which is one of my favorites, is a cousin, let me get this leaf, which has been nibbled on by snails, thank you snails, is a cousin to this plant. These are both cotyledons, and you can tell a cotyledon by the bloom. Some people confuse these with crassula. The bloom is white. It's not very impressive. It doesn't really have a scent, but the plant itself stays low, compact, and is an absolute winner, particularly paired with Kalanchoe luciae or paddle plant. Look at that. It's the same colors, different texture, and it's a dynamite combo. Over here, I also have Crassula ovata, which, as you know, I love. And look, before I pull it out, just look at that. Look at that. Look at the texture against this Aeonium kiwi and these Aeonium urbicums. It's just lush, isn't it? It's absolutely luscious. This kiwi is blooming out. This is a monocarpic plant, and this mama is about done. This doesn't mean that the entire plant is toast. See all these rosettes that are not blooming? Those are all completely viable. So in a situation like this, if you weren't interested in reworking the entire arrangement, you could just cut the mom out and leave the rest of the plant alone. I don't know, exactly what the story is here. I can guarantee you, though, that this sedum was planted as a cutting originally. And look at all of this etiolation, all of this stemming. This is just how incredibly brave and smart and what a will to live these plants have. It has spent the last however many years reaching until it made it to the sun. That's the potential that these plants have to survive. This Sedum rubritinctum is a great plant to work with in tiny arrangements, in gutters, areas where you need just a little something. These absolutely work as propagates for leaf propagation because they're so full of water. But look at this. So easy to just take all those pretty top parts off, because this is another plant that tends toward etiolation and getting a bit leggy. And then all of these new plantlets can just be worked in for contrast in little spots in the garden where you just need a little something. Then this could be planted in a pot in the Garden of Death, and yes, it will be viable. It will continue to throw off little plantlets for many months or even years to come. There's absolutely no waste when working with succulents. It turns out I've even got an Aloe nobilis growing back here. Don't remember planting that, but this is a plant that threw off a lot of babies. Look at that. This is kind of a clumper aloe anyway, so you can separate these babies from the mom if you want to grow this as a specimen. That's fine, but I don't hate the look of this as a clumping plant, so I'll probably let that ride in my garden. Oh my gosh, look at this Fred Ives. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If your succulent stands up, you've done your job. Note the flagstone, note the plant. This is a cutting. It just got laid down on the ground and it rooted. I'm just excited. And it rooted. Look at that. It rooted into the ground. It's in there. Isn't that hilarious? And absolutely thriving. Wow. So I have all of what I think I'm going to need organized here for my restaging of plants. And I'm going to start with this blue elf. Remember how long it was? And I'm going to place it just as a cutting right back basically where it was before. And then I'm just going to systematically start pushing plants in the ground. These Gollum, knowing their potential to get taller, We'll go back here to soften up this corner. I'm also making this choice because this is such a tough plant, and it will thrive despite the fact that it's getting quite a bit of shade underneath the bench. Now, these Fred Ives, we already know, don't we, that we can just literally set this on the ground and it will root and thrive. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to set that right here because I want a little color and texture. And I know that I don't have to, you know, plant it. I can just stick it there and it'll root and grow. So this area, remember we left this brevifolia. I let that stand. I really like the weight of it. So I'm going to start working my way over now. I love that I have exposed some of this flagstone. I'm going to take a piece of the aeonium, remember that giant stand that was right here, and I'm just going to stick that right here, like that. And then maybe just a couple more for good measure to fluff this area out. It looks very good and finished. And then my favorite sunset jade. I'm going to pop those in here in this narrow spot. Now, I don't want to see trunk, so I'm also going to take a little bit of this sedum firestorm. I have so much of it. And tuck that in front, like this. Also, it's kind of cheating because you know what I always say about your succulent standing up? That doesn't want to stand up, and I don't want to take the time to dig a deeper hole. So I'm just going to prop it up with this sedum. Watch this. Voila, boom and boom. Oh, remember those agavoides that we took out over by the orange pot? They got, remember, they're a little sensitive. We saw some over in the raised bed that got sunburnt. So I'm going to tuck those in here in the shade. I think they'll do very, very well as cuttings right there. And I feel like I need still a little more height back here. So more, the beauty of the Argentea sunset too is you can cut it at different lengths. See there? Look at that. A little more height. Then some of my kiwi.
You pack them in really tight.
Yes, you want to. You can't. I had one of you ask me the other day in a comment, how tight is too tight to pack your plants in? And I said, you can't pack them in too tight, in my opinion. If you want more, if you want to see more behind the scenes, more pictures, more videos, head on over to the community page. I want to take a special minute to shout out Lisa and Nancy, two of my members. On the community page, I've got stuff for everybody. But if you really can't get enough of this, I've got even more footage for those of you that have hit that join button. So whatever you choose to do, know I appreciate you immensely. This has been Laura Eubanks of Design for Serenity with Extreme Gardening Day 6 and your succulent tip of the day.